I was hoping to prepare my speech while the other speakers were speaking. And I don't really have all that much to say. My feelings were more of the fact that I really don't have all that much to say about Yehuda. I think that the stories, I read recently that when Rabbi Eiler Steinman passed away, so he left in his tzava, there should be no hespedim. So they came and they asked Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky what they should do. So one of the relatives that was there in the room says, perhaps, for the people who knew Rabbi Eiler Steinman, so then we should follow his, not have any hespedim. But for the people, for our areas, maybe in other countries, that didn't really know him, didn't get to experience him, for them they should have a hespedim. Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky slammed on the table and says, nobody knew Rabbi Eiler Steinman. Nobody really knew him. You think you knew him because you saw him. He was a person who was very much inside. I think with Yehuda, I felt very much the same way. That Yehuda was an introvert, and his godless he kept inside, and everything he did was bitsnius, and it wasn't something that he shared with the public, and he wasn't into fanfare, and it's very hard for me to say that I knew him and that I can really give over any estimation of who he really was. But one of my thoughts that I want to share that I learned from him was he was very much into. He was just a regular, normal person. That's what he was a regular, normal guy, and the greatness that he was able to achieve and the godless he was able to achieve was not in doing outlandish things or crazy things, or he did what he did with Tmimus Halev, and he did it with a whole heart, and that really was the godless that he had. And there's the Chazon Ish writes in one of his hadracha that he gave to one of his talmidim. So he wrote many things that this talmid should be zahir in, but in one of them he wrote, "V'lizar milasos davar meshuna she'en acher mosin kain." Don't do anything strange that other people don't do. V'lizar ma'od b'zeh. The only of his warnings that he gives his talmid that he repeated a second time. Don't do things that are strange. Don't do things that are abnormal. Just be a normal, regular guy, and you can still become the Chazon Ish that way. You don't have to resort to these things. That's a lot of what Yehuda was. He was just a regular person, a regular guy. But what he did with his whole heart. He did it in a way that was madregas above what everybody else was. The Dubno Maggid brings a mashal in this week's parashas. V'yomer Hashem Moshe ma'titzach elai daber b'nei Yisrael v'yisol. So he brings a mashal of. He was a wealthy man who had a son. He pampered the son very much. And this son, as he got older, he realized the son was incapable of really going out and making a living or doing much of anything because he'd been taking care of his whole life. He never worked or anything. So the father said, to throw him out into the workplace is not going to work. He's going to fail. But what we'll do is I'll make him a deal. If he goes out every week and he makes $1,000 this week, so if he makes $1,000, I'll give him $10,000. But he's got to go out and make $1,000 for himself. That he could do. So he, the son, for a week was going out and making $1,000, and finally at the end of 1 week, he makes $999, and he figures, why should I bother myself for the last buck? That's a big deal. I'm sure my father will understand. $999 is good enough. So he comes to the father, and the father says, nothing doing. $1,000's $1,000. He said, for me to give you the $10,000 wasn't a big deal. I didn't need the $1,000 to give you the $10,000. I would have gladly given you the $10,000 without it. I wanted you to work, and I wanted you to make the $1,000. And it was for you that I did this, and that's why, unless you make the $1,000. And that's why it says Daber b'nei Yisrael v'yisov, that by Klal Yisrael, Hashem wanted a certain amount of ishtalos in the partner, a certain amount of emunah b'tachon that they should show. And until they showed that amount, until they showed the exact amount that Hashem wanted, that's when the nace was going to happen. Until then, the nace wasn't ready. And there's a certain amount that a person can put in their heart into something, and they can put their soul into something. And one person put in just a little bit more than somebody else, and the godless they can achieve above the other person is phenomenal. And that's the way I felt. Me and Yehuda came to Yeshiva's Chaverim, and we both did the same things. Shachar, Mincha, and Marv every day, morning, afternoon, night Seder, Musa Seder. But the difference that he was able to achieve was on a very different level. I don't feel like I'm even right to really speak about him. But the Rashiva used to tell this quip. I can't remember who used to quote it. In Pirkei Avos it says, somebody runs after kavod runs away from him. But the person runs from kavod, so then kavod runs after him. So here remember who was, but someone said, what's the nafmina? Either way, you have no kavod. What difference does it make? So he said the answer is it's a joke, but he said it was truth. He says when you get older, you can't run so fast. The stomach catches up. So I felt that way somewhat with Yehuda, that I think that a lot of his greatness, he was very much able to keep hidden. He worked on his mitos tremendously. He worked on his mitos very much, but he didn't tell people these things. And nobody had to know. But at the end of his life, when he wasn't well and he was sick and he was put in nisyonos, the amount of emunah and bitachon that he would display, that he was no longer able to hide, was something that was just unfathomable to me. I remember saying to him, I would speak to him, and I said, I can't understand how you can be sold this nisayon. And I remember his answer to me was, he can't understand my kasha. To him, it was so passionate to have emunah bitachon that I couldn't understand how emunah bitachon could get you through this nisayon. To him, he couldn't understand how you couldn't get through the nisayon. His emunah bitachon was on a different level, and I think it's something to see, that somebody could just be a normal, regular guy, so to speak, but they plug at it and they work at it and they're working there on themselves in a very quiet, simple, and humble way, and they can reach madrigas that are beyond what anybody else could achieve, and that's basically all I have to say. Hey, Zichro Baruch.